Little shops line the central square. It's all very peaceful and quiet. It's just a pleasant place to live.
It's crazy because it's like it looks old, so it is pleasing to the eye, pleasant, right? It just makes you feel like you're in an old Dutch town. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to be checking out a video called "This Town Proves We Can Still Build Beautiful Cities." This one was actually suggested in the comment section of the last video that I did. Taco14 is the one that suggested that I check this out. So make sure you go check out the original video. Click like. The links will be in the description section down below for that. And evidently, this is a brand new Dutch town that I guess it's built to, I'm assuming, look like the old style or something, because it's saying it proves that we can still build beautiful cities. So let's check it out, guys.
This new Dutch town proved that we can still build beautiful new cities. Meet Brandvoort, a charming cyclist and pedestrian-friendly neighborhood near Helmond. It is special in multiple ways, because it has the structure of a traditional Dutch fortified town.
Yeah.
But it is brand new and equipped with all modern luxuries. Some thought that this experiment would fail, but instead the concept worked extremely well, creating a popular place to live and solid proof that the principles of traditional urban design still work. And not only that, but a large part of the housing in Brandvoort is actually affordable or even consists of social housing, instead of just being a resort for the ultra-rich. But is this the recipe for better cities worldwide? Or can we improve on this town? And what is the future of Brandvoort? I went there to find out. Welcome.
This is going to be cool because it does. It looks like an old style, authentic, like fortified, like they even got the star shape. That is cool.
I'm Ruben from The Aesthetic City, a platform devoted to making our cities a little bit more beautiful and livable. Brandvoort and I go way back. In 2009, I already went to Brandvoort to take pictures. Because this town is one of a kind, I was curious and excited to experience what a new traditional town would be like. Back then, only around half was finished. Today, in 2024, the ambitious project is almost done, including its surrounding neighborhoods.
Nice.
And the town is a success. The individual faces sold easily and the residents are happy. But the existence of this town is very unlikely. It was criticized by adherents of modern urban planning, because it would just be a copy of an old town. Even worse, it would use historicizing or retro architecture. And in a country with people that regard themselves as so incredibly forward-thinking and innovative, that is of course not done. But as you will see in this video, this completely new town wasn't built out of nostalgia. Instead, it aimed to fit the place where it was built and used the successful, pragmatic ideas that people have applied for centuries. But first,
you know, and it makes sense because it's like you want it to blend in. You don't want it to just stick out like a sore thumb and be completely different than like the entire rest of the country, you know.
First, how was Brandvoort founded? In the 1990s, the population of the Netherlands was growing and more housing was needed. The Dutch National Planning Committee developed a plan, the so-called Vierde Nota Ruimtelijke Ordening Extra, or Fourth Memorandum on Spatial Planning Extra. This plan called for the expansion of cities in specific areas, which would be named VNEX locations, as an abbreviation of the name Vierde Nota Extra. And Brandvoort was such a location. Originally it was situated in the municipality of Mierlo, a small agricultural settlement, but it was annexed by the bigger city of Helmond for development. Few of the VNEX locations would be as special as Brandvoort would become. They would have weird or plain and monotonous architecture. They would be sleepy suburbs, just expanding on the edge of town. Brandvoort was to be very different. For the plan, two brilliant architects were recruited. First of all, Rob Creer. This is the older brother of Leon Creer, famous for Kajala and Poundbury, which you might know from some of my videos. Rob Creer sadly passed away recently. He called Brandvoort one of his crown achievements. Then there was Christoph Kohl, an experienced and prolific German architect and urbanist, who cooperated with Creer on the design. The companies Wissing and Grondmei cooperated as well, and Paul van Beek would design the landscape. The design team did something very different than in regular projects. They chose for the design of a typical fortified town, as can be found in the province of Brabant, where it is located, surrounded by more suburban, rural outer neighborhoods.
I was actually wondering like where at in the Netherlands, which I still don't know. I mean, Brabant narrows it down quite a bit, but that's a big province.
or buitens. All the buildings would relate to the typical local Brabant architecture.
I always forget that each region of the Netherlands has their own architecture, and I personally haven't picked up on the distinguishing factors. You know what I mean? Like I've watched a ton of videos on the Netherlands if you follow the channel. And to me, like the building on the right hand side, where you got like that stair step kind of design on the front, that follows the roof line. To me, I think that's just you see that everywhere in the Netherlands. So I don't know if like what makes it a typical Brabant architecture, maybe the house is on the left, maybe that's sort of a style specific to Brabant or something. I don't know. Maybe I should do a video on that, like to figure out like the differences in the architectural styles relative to specific provinces or whatever.
Construction began around the year 1998, and in 2007 the first phase was complete. Instead of being just an expansion of the existing city of Helmond, Brandenvoort would be its own community, with De Veste being its core. De Veste is the part that looks like a
Cool.
fortified town, and the buitens around it are named Schutsboom, Brand, Stepenkolk, and the newer Hazewinkel, Lieverdonk and Kranenbroek. I know, that's a lot of Dutch to process. Buildings were designed by Krier & Kool, some by the firm Breitman & Breitman, and many by Scala Architecten, a Dutch firm led by Mieke Bosse and Peter Drijver. Scala already had a lot of experience designing affordable, locally inspired architecture in great numbers. Apart from these firms and many others like LSWA, there would be another group of architects who would
Nice.
shape the future of this place. An Italian professor and his American students of the Notre Dame School of Architecture. Before we move on to tell about the Americans in Brandenvoort, I'd like to tell about something exciting. I'm working on a new website that will have all my videos, interesting projects and much more all under one roof. For this purpose I use Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Squarespace makes it super easy to create a completely personalized website using their new guided design system called Squarespace Blueprint. For example, I could choose between a professionally curated layout or build a site from scratch. Squarespace also allows you to make and sell courses, has built-in analytics and powerful flexible payment tools. And it's all super easy to use. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial. And
That actually does sound pretty cool. Not that I would do it or anything necessarily. I got a lot on my plate, but that would be actually kind of cool if I decided to do like a Squarespace website and then put all my videos on there and also the merch, which by the way, I do have a few merch options down there if you wanted to check it out.
when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/theaestheticcity to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. And now let's get back to it.
Let's get back.
The
Part
ministry
3.
wanted
Hold on. What?
a website or domain. And now let's get back to it.
The American students. Okay. It went kind of fast. I didn't have I read part 3 and then it was gone.
The ministry wanted Brandenvoort to create local jobs, so a number of local architects were hired. But not all firms built with the same quality that was liked by the inhabitants, leading to some criticism. To fix this, Rob Krier decided to call in help from overseas. He contacted the University of Notre Dame School of Architecture to ask Ettore Mazzola, an Italian professor leading the Rome program, if they could develop a plan with architecture as it should have been done. Mazzola accepted the invitation and brought his students to Brandenvoort and the surrounding area. In just a couple of weeks, they documented local architecture and created a sort of pattern book of the region of Brabant. They
Nice.
also pointed to problems with the existing buildings. Instead of being ignored, the new ideas and criticism were embraced, and the team was given 2 lots to design, number 18 and 22. Once their designs were done, the result was so successful that they were actually used for plot 18, and their findings were also used to inform the design of other future blocks.
Nice. That's actually really cool. So they go around, document, take pictures of all the architecture, and then just look at it and be like, all right, so this is the general styling. Very cool.
The result is a beautiful, picturesque town with nice squares and meandering streets. In the middle of the main square stands a classical market hall, which might be the crown jewel of the town. Children safely use their bikes and play freely. Little shops line the central square. It's all very peaceful and quiet. It's just a pleasant place to live.
It's crazy because it's like it looks old, so it is pleasing to the eye, pleasant, right? It just makes you feel like you're in an old Dutch town. But at the same time, it was built in the 21st century. Well, maybe started in the late 20th, I think, but regardless, right? Modern amenities, whereas all the other ancient Dutch towns, I would assume, is lacking in some of those. And if they have them, they've been retrofitted in such a way that it's probably a pain in the ass, kind of a hassle to do so. Whereas this was built ground up with the modern stuff in mind, but wrapped in the shell of an ancient building, appearance-wise. That's fantastic.
And that's exactly what it was designed for. Brandenvoort even has a train station. Overall, the plan has been a huge success. Cool. The homes sold easily and by now it is almost finished. So, on what principles was this plan based? Traditional urban design. First of all, the town makes use of the unbeaten formula of blocks, streets and squares. After a century of trying to reinvent the wheel, often with disastrous results, we seem to rediscover how well this recipe works. The design of Brandenvoort
don't fix it if it ain't broke. That's what I say.
Is very human friendly. It is very safe for cyclists, pedestrians and children. Although cars can get to most places, they cannot go everywhere and always share the street with cyclists. The streets are designed to discourage speeding and parking is moved to the back of the houses, inside of the blocks, keeping the streets free of parked cars.
Is it? Okay, mostly free.
Adaptation to the context. Brandenvoort truly belongs in the Brabant landscape. The architecture fits the local culture, the local climate and builds on the same principles and shared history. It continues the story of the location instead of trying to deny it. And finally, affordability. Brandenvoort is not just a town for the rich. The first phase of Brandenvoort consists of 22% social housing. They were built with the same quality and beauty and mixed through the others. And remember that this is quite rare. We don't see this in many places. As is often the case, there's
going to be criticism everywhere about everything. It's just how it goes, unfortunately.
Is criticism. And because Brandenvoort was so different, it was an easy target. The first point of criticism is, why would you design a city like a 17th century fortified town? Well,
because it looks cool. Have you seen modern cities? I mean, come on. Nobody has to explain that. We all think older cities look more cozy. Modern cities just look like a bunch of Lego blocks. Come on now.
Well, there's a very simple answer. Because traditional urban fabric is still the only type of urban fabric we know will predictably lead to pleasant, successful places. We have tried the tower in the park concept. It failed. We have tried car suburbs. They failed.
In America, keeps on trying the suburbs just like that, and why? It failed. It doesn't work. Why don't we have towns in America that's built like old school European towns? That would be sweet.
Today, we need places that are dense, walkable and can be adjusted to future uses. And traditional urban fabric still does this the best way. And to be honest, I don't expect we'll find other recipes for cities as successful as this anytime soon.
That's cool.
Bringing us to point of criticism 2.
Criticism 2. Of course, there's not just one. But for real though, like America, if they built like towns like this, like if they just literally took that exact same city and just plopped it like here in America, I'd move to it. That'd be awesome.
Isn't this town just a form of nostalgia? To answer this, let me quote a nice piece of wisdom.
Okay, so nostalgia, I have something to say about this, because nostalgia is something that you miss and you long for, okay? So for somebody to say that isn't that city just a form of nostalgia, I would disagree, because the entire country is full of cities like that. So there's no nostalgia feeling, there's no longing and missing of that style. It's everywhere, right? So I don't see that people have that feeling of nostalgia, right? I think it's more of just like, hey, this looks cool. It looks cooler and nicer and more cozy than modern cities, and it'll blend in, with the atmosphere. A lot of people don't care for Rotterdam looking so futuristic because it doesn't blend in with the rest of the places around it. So they don't want no miniature Rotterdam. They want something that blends in seamlessly, my opinion.
Tradition is about preserving the fire, not about worshipping the ashes. I'm personally not interested in nostalgia at all. And I'm convinced the architects weren't either. Right. They just saw, hey, this works. People like this and it fits the location. It's the best idea out there, so let's do it. Building traditions are technologies given to us by previous generations that worked really well.
Yeah.
So instead of ignoring them, why not use them for our benefit? Then criticism point 3.
Number
How
3.
is this type of town compatible with a country or people who wants to be progressive?
Because they build it with modern amenities in mind. Modern technology was put into it. Again, just on the appearance wise, it looks old. So it's very progressive in that sense, I believe, because you get the best of both worlds. You don't have to sacrifice luxury, of technology. Whereas in some old cities, I'm sure there's some stuff that you're missing out on where maybe it hasn't been retrofitted into it yet, or maybe it just can't be. I don't know. I'm just speculating, of course, but
Isn't it reactionary to build like this? Well, I would say get your definition of progress right. Progress, in my point of view, doesn't just mean embracing whatever is different or new. I believe progress always serves a certain purpose, the improvement of the human condition. So this means making people happier, healthier, more prosperous and thriving, and not
exactly.
just chasing change or whatever is novel.
Exactly, and chasing change or whatever's novel, or the standard definition of progress, like where it shows the skyscraper scene, right? If it's prohibiting people's happiness and it's hindering people's freedom to move around, because like in America, for instance, here, we don't have public transportation like that. We don't have walkable cities. We don't have bike paths. So this, so-called progress is actually we're stepping backwards, because in the 1800s, our towns and stuff in our cities here were very much walkable. So we're going backwards and calling it progress, which kind of doesn't make sense. Kind of like wiping your butt before you take a dump. Makes no sense, right?
So if this town is a success and does make people happy and lets them thrive, isn't this the most progressive thing we could do?
Yeah.
Or must progress always look like glass blocks?
I mean, some of the stuff looks okay, but I would rather have the old stuff. There's a time and a place for everything. And in the middle of an old city isn't the place for giant artistic style glass blocks, right? I mean, have a certain art district for that sort of thing, or museums or whatever,
I'll let you decide in the comments.
Yeah. Right down there, guys. Chime in, please.
Brandenvoort isn't perfect, of course.
Nowhere is, but it certainly looks cool. One thing I can say though, so I don't know, I just noticed this. This all has blackish, like darkish gray black shingles or ceiling tile, whatever it is, right? But then some of the surrounding areas have the traditional like orange clay looking stuff, like that whole section over there and then over here on the right hand side. So is this specific place the new town that was built, right? And if so, did they go away from the traditional orange? Or is the orange sections also part of it and it just, maybe I'm just looking too much into it. I don't know. And if anybody can tell me why this section's blue. I don't know why all the ceilings, all the roofs are blue here. I don't know if that's a construction thing. Maybe they're not finished with it and it's like tarps. I don't know. If you could let me know, that would be pretty sweet.
One of the biggest problems perhaps is that while it looks like a small city, it doesn't really function like one. Because traffic is diverted around the center, only destination traffic goes into the heart of the town,
Nice.
making it quiet and giving businesses a harder time surviving. Most existing cities have a reason for existing where they are, like being located on the crossing of two roads or where trade happens. But then again, do the residents of Brandenvoort really care? They value the quiet of the town, while still living in a charming, walkable, safe place. Another point of critique I would bring forward is that not all the architecture is equally nicely detailed. It doesn't always look as authentic. The most authentic looking traditional architecture comes with the use of traditional construction techniques. An example is what building culture from Oklahoma is doing.
What? Wheeler District, Oklahoma City? I mean, to me, which of course, I can't pinpoint, Dutch architecture the greatest, but of course the stair step style here, very Dutch. The skinniness of it and how deep it is, very Dutch. I don't think Dutch buildings had porches though. I think this is like a blend or a mashup of an American architecture style and a Dutch one.
Use of traditional construction techniques. An example is what building
Hold on. I
culture
didn't
from
go back
Oklahoma.
enough. Sorry, guys. Let's see here.
Another point of critique I would bring forward is that not all the architecture is equally nicely detailed. It doesn't always look as authentic. The most authentic looking traditional architecture comes with the use of traditional construction techniques. An example is what building culture from Oklahoma is doing. By building entirely out of brick, they create buildings that have this authentic quality. Unfortunately, it is more expensive, and Brandenvoort needed to offer social housing in the mix as well. I guess you can't have both, at least not at this time. With the enormous success of Brandenvoort,
I wish they put the titles up just a little bit longer.
at least not at this time.
All right, part 8. Smart City Future. Okay.
With the enormous success of Brandenvoort, you might expect the municipality to be smart and say, hey, it works, let's do more of this. Right?
Well, there's not a lot of room to do more of that. There's already a bunch of cities in the Netherlands. They don't just have just a bunch of open land, you know?
Well, almost. The next phase of Brandenvoort, called the Marke, was already planned out and ready to be built using the same successful principles. But the municipality of Helmond decided that instead it would be better to choose for an untested novel concept of a smart city called Brainport Smart District.
Okay, but it'll be confined to one area. It's not going to be randomly implemented throughout the old style building, you know, because I don't want to see a city full of old buildings and then just randomly like a giant Lego block looking thing in the middle of it. It just out of place, you know, sort of thing. But to have a specific district for it, I think that would work.
This would become the city of the future.
Kind of like what I was saying earlier, you know, like make a designated spot for those futuristic glass block kind of artwork looking buildings.
Where did we hear that before? Brainport
Rotterdam?
Smart District would be
I don't
filled
know.
with sensors and technology, and it would look like this. Randomly placed modernist blocks in a park-like setting. At first glance it might look futuristic, but let's be honest. Is it really? The buildings you see already exist in many Dutch towns, so they're not very original. Apparently the future is yesterday. Maybe we need to move beyond the blocky minimalist aesthetic. And while we're at it, invent something different from the science fiction vision of what the future should look like. In the case of Brandenvoort and its expansion, I don't see any reason why all the sensors and other technology couldn't have been integrated in the existing design. They
Exactly.
wasted a lot of money and a good plan for nothing. It's painful to say, but modernist urban design tends to flop, while traditional design tends to do better and is preferred by a large part of the population.
And it's preferred by me too. I mean, you know, part of me does like some skyscrapers and like some cool buildings, of course, but it's never going to be as cool as old stuff ever.
So they're taking on a lot of risk. Anyway, I wish them luck. They already had to reduce their ambitions by a lot to cut costs. If it gets built though, it will be the best natural experiment ever. We can just compare the two places in 70 years and see which one will be more successful. You can place your
Yeah,
bets in the comments.
actually.
So that is the story of Brandenvoort. I believe this town really is a hopeful sign that we can still build amazing new places that are beautiful but also affordable, walkable and safe for children. If you're visiting the Netherlands, I encourage you to take the trip by train and take a look. I'm happy to read what you think. If you liked this video, please like and follow our channel or
Very cool, guys. Yeah, that actually, I'm excited to see like what's going to happen with that section there. And like he said, you know, compare it in 70 years. Of course, I'm probably not going to be around in 70 years, realistically, but still a cool thought. Anyways, awesome suggestion from, was it Taco? Yeah, Taco 14. So yeah, you guys have a super fun, awesome day. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. Bye.